Hey everybody, and welcome to the next episode of our Mystic Road Trip. I am Kim. I am a spiritual wellness coach, tarot reader, and astrologer who likes to use all of that to help women decondition. Woo, that was hard. So that they can find their true path to their authentic self and their true bliss. And that's what we're doing. And today it's going to be a little something different. In last podcast episode, I talked about how we were going to be venturing into some of my passions, some of my special interests, and one of those, I'm a history nerd, y'all. It's just the way it is. And as I was thinking about how I was going to rebrand this, I thought about how I have inspirations in my life, right? And how I have women that I look to. And then I started thinking, I used to do this podcast, and it may come back someday, called Where Are All the Ladies At? And it was a look at women in history that did amazing things that people seem to forget. And as I was kind of thinking about that podcast, I was like, well, you know what? There's lessons to be had from those women, lessons that could very well benefit my audience and the women I'm trying to help. And so I thought, what better a way than to take a day and talk about some of these women, right? Today we're going to be talking about one, and in the future I may be doing like two women in this, but I really wanted to highlight some women that had some great lessons to be taken from. Today, we're going to be taking a little tour to ancient Egypt, circa 1479 to 1458 BCE. By the way, I know this is not a history podcast, but I use BCE. That is the common term when it comes to history. I know some people still use BC, but this is before Common Era, and this is kind of the thing that archaeologists use. So let's take a detour. As I said, we're going to cycle on back to ancient Egypt, where there was a lot of power and politics, and there was one woman who said, you know what, fuck you guys, I'm going to take it from here. And I know what you're thinking, oh my God, we're going to talk about Cleopatra. Oh my God, we're going to talk about Nefertiti. No, those are great women, and they may make an appearance in the things. Today, we're going to talk about Hatshepsut, which hopefully I'm saying that properly. And this woman, she was not just a queen. She actually became pharaoh, right? And that was a time where that was definitely a man's job. Women had a sacred place in Egypt, but that wasn't it. When her husband passed away and she became the regent for her son, she just decided to, instead of waiting for acceptance, she was going to really take control and redefine that role, right? She was a woman who went so far as to adopt the traditional male imagery, and that included that fun little beard that we all like. She took on all of the pharaoh titles and authority, and her reign was a time of peace and wealth and actually major expansion. Under her leadership, the trade routes through Egypt flourished. Egypt's economy grew stronger. She commissioned some pretty stunning architectural projects, including her mortuary temple at Deir al-Bahri, I think that's how you say it, and it's still standing. This is something that this woman did. But as always, when that woman got a little too, in power, there were men who didn't like it. And that means that when she did die, there was a little bit of a plot twist. They decided, these men, that they couldn't let people know that a woman had done all this. So she was erased intentionally. Statues were destroyed. Her name was removed. Basically, it was like, let's pretend she wasn't here, because then nobody will know. And why? Why? Because powerful women tend to make systems super uncomfortable. That good old patriarchy. And when they do great things and then they go out of power or whatever happens, it's time to clean up, right? Nobody needs to know that the lady did a good job, right? So why does this matter? Why am I talking about this woman from God knows how long ago? Because Hatshepsut was a woman who didn't wait for permission. She didn't shrink to fit the expectations of who she was. In fact, she expanded what was possible, even if, really truthfully, the world really wasn't ready for that. The real lesson that comes from Hatshepsut is you don't need a system to validate you before you evolve. You don't need a consensus to outgrow your current identity. Expansion doesn't always look loud or dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes internal. Sometimes it's you just deciding, yeah, I'm not going to take that for an answer, right? I'm not going to do that any fucking more. If you think about it, she really was like the queen of deconditioning. She stepped into a role that she was not supposed to have. So when you think about her, think about your life. And think about where you're following rules you never consciously chose. Where are you playing roles that feel more like obligation than your truth? And here's the thing, a lot of those rules are learned, they're inherited, and of course they're reinforced so often by the way we feel. We feel these are facts. Like, a woman is supposed to be this, I'm supposed to do this, I should do this. Those are all learned and inherited behaviors, okay? They're not facts, they're patterns. And guess what? We all know patterns can be rewritten. So what do you guys think about this? How do you guys feel about taking a look at historical women and other things? We may even take some fictional women. There's always lessons to be had. I hope you enjoyed. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed taking this historical figure and using her as an example, as an inspiration for women to break out of that goddamn shell, break out of that cage, be your big self, take up room. The only way things are going to change is if we do that. I hope that really resonated with some of you. I hope this episode really dug into your skin. As always, if you want to reach out to me, you like this content and want more, check out my Substack community. You can also check out my Instagram and TikTok. There's a Medium publication that goes with that. And if you're interested in getting involved with my coaching programs or my tarot or astrology reads, you can go to Buy Me a Coffee, and there you'll find all of the available information there. I would appreciate you guys joining me on other platforms, because though they are all synced together, every platform has a little something different. All right, so with that being said, let's look at our final reflection prompt for the day. Where are you following rules you never agreed to? Where are you shrinking instead of expanding? And what would you do if you trusted yourself more than you feared judgment? I think that's a good question for all of us. I hope you enjoyed. As always, have a wonderful day, stay curious, and stay blessed.